Hi, I'm Scott Olson with FounderBuzz, and today I'm here with Patrick Chukwura from Fine and Dandy Games. Thanks for being with us, Patrick.
Thank you very much. How's it going?
Going great, going great. Well, I'm excited to talk to you today because I'm a gamer. I love playing games, whether they're casual games on a mobile platform or whether they're, a little bit more interactive like World of Warcraft. I think it's a super interesting genre, and was really interested to hear about the work that you've done on Goop and the mobile platform. So maybe you could start out by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, I'm the co-founder and developer at Fine and Dandy Games, and actually been developing since I was actually 12 years old. So it's been a lot of time since I've been doing that. Started off with Fine and Dandy December 2010. It's kind of something I always wanted to do. I've been developing. I've done some Java backend work. I've done some other mobile platforms such as BlackBerry and made some traditional iOS apps. But I always wanted to make a game, and I finally decided to do it and take the plunge. And it was really, really enjoyable experience. And I learned a lot and plan to continue from there.
Great. So you say that you founded Fine and Dandy Games in December of 2010. So what's what was the timeline from kind of the conceptualization of the idea of, hey, I want to create a game to actually getting it up on the App Store and with iOS?
The timeline, well, basically, even before that, I was trying to narrow down some ideas I had. I was kind of on the fence of, is this something I really want to do? I knew it'll take a lot of time and different resources that I never used before, such as hiring an artist, doing audio, and also developing games was something new to me. So there's a few technical aspects I had to pick up on. So from that time to actually the game going to App Store, it took roughly about 7 to 8 months. But of course, from the beginning, I developed before I actually registered the company, so that explains that time difference. But yeah, it took roughly 8 months. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of development, changing ideas in the middle of things. Really slowed things down at times. And at the time, I was also had a full-time job, so I was trying to managing that as well.
And now, how many people worked on the game, including the people that you hired for art and music?
Let's see. It was myself. It was also Ashley Norton, who's the other co-founder of Fine and Dandy. She handled a lot of the marketing, a lot of business transactions and things of that nature. We also had a designer that we contracted with, a student out of Greece named Christina, and we worked with an audio guy who helped with the creating the music of Goop, and Sean Beeson out of Ohio. So roughly just 4 people. So
okay. Well, talk about the process of choosing iOS first. And
okay.
There's been a lot of news about the popularity of Android and how that's kind of overtaken some of iOS. So,
right.
Talk about that decision process and why just one platform first, and are you going to move it to other platforms next?
The reason for choosing iOS is, well, I started initially developing on iOS before looking at the Android platform. I was around September or so, around the fall 2008 when. Well, actually a bit earlier than that, when Apple initially allowed third-party developers to develop for the platform. So around the fall of 2008 is when I decided to take a look into that. And I really liked the system that Apple set up as far as from the developer standpoint all the way through to the customer purchasing the app. I really thought it was a complete system. And I kind of, with Goop, I decided to, take some of my skills and knowledge of that platform and build upon that and make and develop games for it. Another reason I chose the iOS platform is, basically the limited number of form factors. There's really just, the iPhone 4 with Retina display, and then, iPhone 3G, 3GS, as well as iPod Touch. So the technical requirements to support all those devices is really minimal. And I know on the Android side of things, there are, a bunch of different form factors, different screen sizes. And for a first project, that's just something I didn't want to tackle initially. I kind of wanted to be able to control the full experience and use a platform that I felt most comfortable with.
That makes a lot of sense.
How
difficult is it now that you have the game, you've got it published Are you considering moving that to Android, and how complicated would that be now that you've kind of got your initial foot out there with a successful game?
Yeah, we definitely considered moving to Android and other platforms, even Windows Phone 7. The difficulties, well, when initially developing Goop, I did have in mind that possibly I would support other platforms. So I decided to use as much C++ as opposed to Apple-specific, Objective-C, which is their language that really primarily support on an iOS device. The difficulties of that would be required for me to, of course, know how the platform of Android works on every specific device, determine, what hardware requirements will work on that. There's also a few technical things that are specific to each device, which I would have to discover on my own, or either to even decide to outsource that. Take the majority of Goop code and have another developer who's more familiar with the Android platform to possibly successfully port it to that platform. So
Right.
it would be a lot. It would be a lot of work for one person, especially trying to juggle currently supporting Goop on iPhone and possibly other games in the future.
Now, with this is really interesting because I think there's a lot. Developers are going to be what determines success of platforms ultimately, is the
Right.
apps that are available for it. So there are some challenges porting to these other platforms. But what about the thought of iPhone and iPod Touch versus iPad? Have you considered making an iPad version of this, and is that going to be based on the success of the game? Are you thinking about that or looking into it?
Yeah, we definitely looked at the iPad version. The changes to go from the iPhone to iPad aren't as much. It's really just a matter of having the graphics that support that. We're doing a couple things and updates with the iPhone version, and including our localization, adding support for some other features that we have planned. And then we do want to eventually come with the iPad once we feel the iPhone version is in a point where we can just take everything we've done and support the iPad, and without having to update, both versions, back and forth. Because right now it's really, really changing application. So that is definitely something we want to do.
That makes sense. You've got a great post up that's a post-mortem of your process, and it's pretty detailed. And I'm going to put a link to it with this interview.
Cool. Okay.
One of the things that you talked about were your costs, which didn't seem too exorbitant. They were less than 10,000. I think they came in at around 7,500, if I remember correctly.
Right.
One of the things you didn't mention in there was the success side of this, and were you meeting your goals financially? And if you don't want to tell me the specifics, you don't have to. But would love to hear. Are you making money? Did you make your money back? Is this something that was a success and a learning experience, or a success and I got a little bit of cash in my pocket and I can't wait to make the next game?
Okay. So it's definitely a success and learning experience. When it initially came out, it hit actually the top 50 within its two categories. So it did very well the first few days, actually the first week. Since then, it has trailed off. It's entered the nosebleed section of the App Store, as a lot of indie developers have realized. So it's close to, but hasn't made back what was spent on it. However, we haven't stopped marketing the application. We're actually going to enter a new round of marketing, try some different things to get it back where we think it needs to be. It hasn't discouraged me at all. Actually, we're working on making Goop a better game. We also started the initial development of a second game. Coming into this, we both understood that this is definitely something that is just like releasing a product in a retail store. You got to have the right marketing, you got to get the right buzz behind it. And one thing we want to change this time is getting people interested earlier on.
Yeah.
Which is something we didn't do with Goop, which probably explains how it trailed off. So we're learning from that and fixing what we've done wrong, and hopefully the next title and also this new marketing push, improves our ranking with this game and future games.
Yeah, the marketing element of it is extremely interesting, and I think one of the things, of course, Angry Birds is the poster child of money making games. But
Right.
one of the things I found interesting in your postmortem was your attention that you spent on the naming of the little eeps, right? And
Yes, correct.
making them kind of memorable individual characters. Was that kind of a thought process as well, as like each one of these little guys is an element of the marketing, and it's if there is some success, then it adds opportunity for marketing beyond just the game.
Yeah, definitely. And we do plan on really playing off of that. We did spend a lot of time naming the characters as a whole and naming each one individually, and that's something we both discussed, and we determined that we definitely need to use that and push that, and help the game and the whole I guess Goop franchise, and possibly help it in the future with other versions of the games and other things that it could expand to.
And how important is it to keep it fresh and keep new screens, keep new additions? When you look at some of the more popular games, whether it's Angry Birds or Doodle Jump or Pocket God is one of the ones that my kids just can't get enough at. They're either cross-marketing with other games, they're putting new mini games within the game, they're doing updates pretty frequently to keep it at the top of mind, so that when somebody else buys a phone and they ask their friend, what's a game I gotta have, they say Goop, right, instead of somebody
Right.
else.
That's it's actually very important. We do have an update coming up that adds Open Faint, as well as some other features there. I really think it does add a lot. For the current users who currently use the game or application, when you do see an update, you're more willing to give the application a try again. And like you said, it does keep it fresh in people's minds, and they may happen to come across their friend or family, and that's something they suggest to them. So it's definitely important. One thing developers do need to do is, determine how much time and effort they do put in updates versus, possibly working on a different application. One thing you don't want to get into the trap of is, releasing a huge update and, pushing it out there, and it doesn't really have the punch that you initially thought. Maybe that could have been used for a different application, but really managing of what updates include and how you go about marketing that, I think, is going to be very important for Goop, and obviously has worked with other applications and games out there.
Well, great. Patrick, I really appreciate you taking the time, and as you come out with your next game or you come out with a big release, I'd love to talk to you again. So it's pretty interesting stuff. I think a lot of people like to hear about this.
Sure, definitely.
Okay, great. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you.